and a Financing podcast. Today I'm delighted to have with us John Paramore from the Smash Company. John is a serial entrepreneur who has built several successful companies in the roofing and restoration industries. He left his last company to pursue his passion of helping others implement the superior sales methods that he became passionate about while owning his companies. This is going to be an awesome show. I'm really excited about this because John has helped dozens of entrepreneurs get away from inefficient sales practices like cold door knocking and finding better lead generation methods that generate double or even triple the revenue. Welcome to the show, John.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your company, the Smash Company, and how it's helped entrepreneurs over the years.
One great thing that I really love about our business is we go into other organizations that are either stuck or struggling, and it doesn't really matter with what, whether it's systems, processes, procedures, the team that they've put in place, whatever the case may be. We specialize in going inside of those organizations and really helping them move their business to the next level.
Okay. So can you give me an example of a company that might be stuck?
Oh my goodness. I would say honestly, there's a lot of companies out there that have gotten themselves, and I'll give you a specific example here in a second, but there are a lot of companies that have gotten themselves to a certain level. And then what happens is they reach either their capacity or the capacity level of their team, and they really just are uncertain and unsure about how to get to that next level. So like, for instance, one of our clients does about $30 million a year. And they have a pretty good sized team. They've got an internal team of about 15. They have about 40 sales reps, in the field, and they just couldn't figure out how to get the company from 30 million a year to even growing it by 50%, right? Getting it to 45 million. And, you know, they've got the people in place. They have the systems in place. What they really, the problem that they had though was they had what we would label as like a ping pong effect happening. They were moving, parts of the internal processes to one person and then back to another person and then back to that same person. And what we did was help them streamline that process so that everybody only touches the file that was needing to be produced one time. They do their specific role, their specific function, and then they move that file on to the next person, and essentially they're finished with what needs to happen as opposed to it going back and forth.
Yeah, so it's a situation where they're so close to a problem that they don't really see what's going on outside of the problem. Every
single time, right?
Yeah.
When you're standing in the fire, it's really, really difficult to realize that you're about to be burned, right? And bringing somebody like us, you know, like we're just an opposite set of eyes, and we've been in business. I mean, I've been building businesses for 20 years at this point, right? And we had at our pinnacle, I mean, we were doing $30 million a year in 2009 with 125 employees in 19 different states. So,
wow.
You know, I've seen a lot of that happen, and I've even had to have consultants come into my companies and do the same thing and say, hey, you know, have you ever thought about looking at it this way?
Right. And how long would it typically take for you to go through that process with the company?
It really depends. Everything we do is custom. Everything. We always start with we call it a 3-day intensive, where we essentially go to their facility or they come to ours. We've got a room called the Tank that we bring people into here. But we either go to their facility, they come to ours, and we look at everything. I mean, we start from how do they generate a lead all the way to how does it get produced? What are the systems in between? How many people have to touch it? What's the processes involved in touching it? And then ultimately, when it's produced, what kind of result is the client getting, and are they excited about it, or are there breakdowns there as well?
Okay. So is there a revenue size that you work with? Because this is really fascinating. I feel like so many companies could benefit from this.
Yeah. So our smallest client right now does about $3 million a year. Our largest client just does under $100 million. So it's a pretty wide, I mean, and it's the size of the business is not really like the caveat for us. It's more about the owner's willingness to have somebody come in and tell them that things are broken, right? To tell them that things are inefficient. And a lot of times owners, and I've been there, so I can relate.
Right.
There's a lot of ego in being an owner, right? There's a lot of
Oh, yeah.
confidence and things like that. And it's sometimes difficult to have somebody come in who you don't know really well, be able to go and find, you know, the problem that's really stifling your growth, and they can find it in a matter of days and you haven't been able to see it in 5 years. I mean, that's pretty humbling for a lot of people.
That is. And the thing is, when you're as an entrepreneur, your business is like a baby to you, and then for someone to come in and tell you how to run your business, it could be a very emotional process, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No doubt.
So, please share with us how your journey of starting the Smash Company. I know you're a serial entrepreneur, and you've talked about how you've learned over the years how to build your businesses. But what journey brought you to this point to switch gears from your owning your own businesses and roofing to starting Smash Company?
Yeah, so I've actually owned several different businesses. My largest company was my contracting business, but I've owned personal training facilities, marketing organizations, things like that. So I got started at a really young age. I was 23 when I opened my first business, and quickly got in. Like, I basically was thrown into the fire. I had an organization that owed me a bunch of money that ended up going upside down, and I really didn't know what to do. So we started our own business, myself and another partner, and then I basically, got thrust into the world of entrepreneurship, which I'm very, very grateful for looking back, because it really forced me to get out of a comfort zone and to really learn as much as I could, as fast as I could, and really build a lifestyle that I could only dream of at the beginning when we started doing it. But I mean, there's been so much, adversity and ebbs and flows in 2009. When the 2008, 2009, when the economy went through a pretty big downward spiral, I owned $15 million in residential real estate that ended up, we ended up going bankrupt because the notes got called and all of that stuff. So I've been at the pinnacle of success, where you have, the adversarial pinnacle of success, where everybody likes to label it as success, fun cars, houses, all of that stuff, all the way back down to zero, and then completely rebuilt again after that.
Wow.
And I think it's just, the willingness to go through whatever adversity is there, whatever pain is there, and just, having a bigger vision, like what I really am after to create. So.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it all. I mean, not a lot of people have been to that pinnacle of success, and then you've lost it and was able to rebuild it. So.
Exactly. And I'll be honest with you, like that is the number one reason why the majority of my clients hire me and are willing to pay a lot of money to have us come in and look at their stuff, is because they know, like, they're like, this guy's been through, he's like been at the gates of hell and stood in the fire and has been burned really bad, but then also walked himself out of that, and for a lot of people, like, they get themselves to that same scenario where they're just standing there looking at the gates, but they don't know how to get out, right? Hey, we should just call the guy who's been here before and have him help us out of here real quick.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to trying to figure it out.
Right. Yeah, because I'm sure not only because it's a humbling process, but now here's someone who has been there, and you can identify with what they're going through. Not only that, I'm sure that you could see warning signs that they might not be able to see, whether it's being overly leveraged or having too much staff. What warning signs have you seen that owners haven't seen?
I would say, like, one of the biggest things that I see on a regular basis is the right people in the wrong seat. So, like, having an operations person in doing sales, having somebody doing sales who's better meant to do internal processes and procedures. But we see that's probably the most common thing that I see, is someone use what we label as a best guess hiring practice to build their team. And they're really frustrated because they say things to us like, John, why can't I just get my people to do what they're supposed to do?
Yeah.
And we immediately know, well, it's likely because you have the right person in the wrong seat.
Wow.
And as soon as you realign some of that, you just shift people into roles that are better suited for who they are, the company flourishes.
Yeah, and then sometimes that could even be the owner. I mean, the owner may have been able to get something to a certain point, and then as the business grows, they need someone else to fill that seat.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So over the years, you have been instrumental in helping entrepreneurs go from inefficient sales practices like cold door knocking and to finding better lead generation methods. Why do
For
you
sure.
believe cold door knocking is inefficient, and what are some better alternatives?
Yeah. So the main thing that makes cold door knocking inefficient is that it's not predictable, it's not sustainable, and it's not a reliable form of lead generation, right? So if somebody, obviously it's like playing the lottery, right? If you hit enough doors at a good enough clip and you enjoy doing that, you're going to get results from it, right? That's just
Right.
from the tenacity of doing it. It's kind of like going to the gym, and if all you do is walk on a treadmill, you're probably going to lose some weight. But does that mean that you're suffering somewhere else, right? Does that mean that because you're not lifting weights, now you've lost a bunch of weight, but because you gained no muscle, now all you are is like skinny fat, right? So
Right.
that's the same scenario that presents itself with door knocking. If you're an owner and you have your guys just go out and knock doors to generate leads, can they generate business? Sure, but you're going to end up having this massive rate of turnover because people are going to burn out, right? I mean, that takes a tremendous amount of willpower, and you can only be rejected so many times and go through that willpower before you just burn out and you're done with it. So we teach people all the time, like even if it means just warming up the door or if it means different lead generation methods, whatever the case may be, we teach people all the time that, there's way more efficient ways to do the same thing without the abuse and wear and tear on the salespeople.
Okay. So what would be an example of a better lead generation method?
Oh, so the two main things that we talk about on a regular basis would be targeted direct mail, which is way different than mass mailing. Targeted direct mail would be like, you know who your client is, you know where they live, you've got the demographic down, and you're using handwritten envelopes and handwritten notes to get their attention. That's the handwritten envelope by itself has a 97% open rate. So that means that because it's so unused. If you think about it now, like the last time that somebody sent you something that was handwritten, 97% of the people that get that open it because it's so infrequent now, right? We get a lot of stuff that has like a pre-address or something like, typed on there or something like that. But we just don't get much handwritten stuff anymore. Most of the time, the only handwritten stuff you get every month is when, like, if it's your birthday or something, right? So if you put a note to someone in an envelope and you handwrite it, you mail it out to them, they're going to open it. Then it just means that the messages inside the envelope needs to be really compelling and strike a nerve, emotion, whatever the case may be, to get them to take action. So that's one thing that we use that works really, really good. I mean, and you have access to like the greatest technology era of all time, right? You've got Facebook and social media and Instagram and LinkedIn and all of these methods. If you can generate ads and you can generate organic search. I mean, I built this entire business as it sits today has been built solely on organic posting and organic following from social media. Like that's everything that we've built today. It's a seven-figure a year organization that's been solely built just from organic traffic on social media. Now we're diversifying and we're getting into, moving into ads and YouTube and all that fun stuff. But it's like when I started this thing 5 years ago, all I did was get online and go into groups where my essentially my avatar, my ideal client was, and just deliver like a ridiculous amount of value into those groups, and people were just, coming like crazy.
Huh. And that doesn't cost you, much.
Nothing.
As opposed to buying lots of lists and calling people all the time. And you probably enjoy it a lot more. Yeah, absolutely. And the handwritten letter, you're right, because at times I'll get handwritten notes and I do open those letters. That
absolutely.
There is value in that. Why do you see entrepreneurs doing wrong in their businesses? I know you said right people in the wrong seat, but do you see any other things that entrepreneurs are doing wrong, and how can they correct it?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on that. I mean, that's like a pretty broad, question, but it just depends on the type of business that they have. I would say, probably the second largest thing that I see outside of the right people in the wrong seat would be scaling too fast, right? Trying to put the cart before the horse.